Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome, welcome. It is officially time to get our live Zoom property tour started. We do these every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern, and we feature investors from our community all across this country. As we're a national community of investors, we
No.
love, if we could go ahead, guys, help me with mute if you would. I appreciate it. And we got somebody beating on their desk. There you go. Thank you. As we're a national community of investors, we love to share other folks from our community, other investors on what they're doing, their story, how they got started, and the deal that they're doing that they want to share with people. So again, we do these every Saturday. So next Saturday, we'll be coming to you from the Salt Lake City area. So we got a great property tour in store for you there. And today is Ocala, Florida. Now, our investor, I don't think is in Ocala today, but he moves back and forth from New York to Ocala. So we haven't had Anthony out in like a year or so. So this is a really great privilege that we get to get him back out. And so without further ado, let me go ahead and turn the flyer off, and we'll go ahead and pull up Anthony. If you want to go ahead and turn your computer on, your screen, your camera, that'd be great. We got you.
Got you. I appreciate that.
Welcome, welcome. Well, we didn't see you long. You were gone. There you are. There's a picture of you. Well, Anthony, we are so excited and honored that you were able to take some time out today and give back to the community and share your story, how you got in started, things like that. And I love the fact that you're willing to come out, and so many folks in our community do this on a Saturday basis. And it's just really neat to see what everybody's up to. And so today we're going to have a lot of folks on that are guests, or they're new to the community. So they're learning, they're taking golden nuggets away from these, and just kind of checking out our community and everything like that. So it's really good to get started by kind of just sharing your story, like what you were doing before you ever became an investor. And then what happened in your life, okay? What did you see or experience or read, or what was it that you're like, man, I'm going to be a real estate investor. That's what I want to do. And then the really cool thing is how you found our community and why it was so important that you become a part of our community, just like me. So I'll let you go ahead and take it from there.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Scott. I appreciate the opportunity to present one of our projects. Again, it's been a while, as you said, but anything for the community, because it's all about the family and the community. So I'm happy to share today. My background is in architecture and project management and planning and design. So, I was in that industry for the last 22 years, doing public and also private architecture work. But I noticed on the private side, I was only making 3% of, the construction costs, right? And then, of course, I was getting calls as early as 7 a.m. in the morning all the way to 10 o'clock at night. So I'm like, if I'm putting in so much hours, might as well do it for myself, So I decided to look around to see how can I get into real estate for myself to get that 30%, 35% return on investment. So a roadside sign, called the number, got in touch with the person. They told me about the community, and I was sold day one. Before I get off the phone, I was in the community. I was, taking part. I was trying to get involved as much as possible and to learn as much as I can from my mentor. And so that was the fact that having a mentor was just something that I needed, right? I didn't want to start a new profession, so to speak, and I'd have somebody to hold your hand. And so for me to have somebody to hold my hand, even to this day, that's just tremendous. And so that's why my love for the community and any way I could give back is always a bonus to everything that I've received, just paying it forward.
That's awesome. So today's deal that you're sharing with us is about a new development, and it's a land development that you're building a property, but you've done other strategies in real estate, correct?
Correct, definitely. When I got involved with community, based on where I was coming from, I realized that I need to get in fast. And so I selected tax liens and tax deeds as my easiest way to get in. It didn't take a lot of money. $1,000 could have me start investing, right? So that's the route that I took to get in. And once I got in, started doing tax liens and tax deeds, making 18% return on the tax lien side. I also picked up properties, tax deeds portion of properties as well. And so find myself, after COVID and before COVID, with a lot of vacant land on my hands. And, and then because of the community is so powerful, I started to look into land development. And so it started off simple, but it evolved into land development because I end up with so much land that I had acquired during the tax deed process. And so just have the community to hold my hand and to show me that's what's possible, and there's no limitation, that allows me to venture into other areas. And so I'm still doing tax liens and tax deeds, but I'm also, definitely ramping up the new construction.
That's really nice. And I love new construction as well. I do fix and flip. I do new construction. Last year I did 5 in 1 year, which was a lot in new construction. And also have rental properties, have apartments. So I love doing all the different strategies, which you and I both learn about all those strategies and how to execute and, actually go after those type of strategies through our community, right?
Exactly. And the community shows you a palette, and you can just partake, right, with support behind you, and that doesn't get better than that.
Absolutely. So it's always interesting, this particular deal is where you actually bought some land. You want to kind of talk about how that all comes together. A lot of people that I meet, they hear that I'm building houses and I'm, developing the land, and I build the house. And, one property I bought a piece of property and built 3 houses right next to each other. And, a lot of people have interest. They say, man, I want to get into that. That's something I would love to do. Can you talk a little bit about how that all works, how that process works, how you locate property, that type of thing, and then and kind of get into the deal we're going to show here in a second?
Sure. Happy to share that. That's a very good question. So for me, I like to tell people, you need to find a location or a city or a state that you want to do business in, right? You do all your homework in terms of, is this a city that is, on the up and up? Is it, growing in terms of population size, et cetera? And once you do the basic homework in terms of knowing that the city is on the upswing, so to speak, or stable, then you start looking at properties. And if you're looking at vacant lots, you want to make sure that you do your homework, because you never want to buy a piece of property that's not developed, that's not able to be developed. And so for us, the good thing about land development that I've noticed is that the support that you get from the counties and the cities is tremendous. They literally, you can give them a parcel number or a lot and block number, and they'll tell you what you could put on the property. They'll tell you the size and everything that you could do in terms of setbacks and requirements and local ordinance. They'll give you everything at your fingertips. So you just have to begin to farm in that area. When I say farm, meaning that start doing the heavy research in that neighborhood. And then once you find a piece of property, before you put $1 down, talk to the county, because they're your friend. They literally work for you, right? So I encourage people to don't be shy in terms of thinking that, wow, I never had this experience before. What should I do? You're always going to need an architect, an engineer to be in your corner, a good surveyor, but I'll definitely start off with the counties and the cities, because they are your friend and they're willing to help you all day long. As long as the office is open, you could go in 10 times with the same question, they'll answer you. If you go back with different scenarios, they'll answer you and give you different things you can do on the property. So the fear of it is taken away, because you have all these municipalities that's working on your behalf, and so, having a good team behind you as well, and the community just makes it easier.
That's awesome. So how did you learn to what you had to check for and what you had to look into and ask questions? And because a lot of people on today maybe not even know what they don't know. I love that saying, you don't know what you don't know. And, there's a lot of things you got to know before you literally not only start building, before you even acquire the property. You just went through that. How did you learn how to do all that?
Right. So for me, I like to step back for a minute and just look at it in a process where, in the history of, land development or, property ownership, every property is accounted for, right? And so between the tax department, the building department, there's records kept on these properties. And so, if you're looking in a neighborhood, every property is either zoned for specific use, but it's zoned for residential, commercial, industrial, or manufacturing, so to speak, right? So it's zoned for something that is either as of right usage that you have to it. And then, of course, you can always go the variance road and get special permission, but you always want to start with, if you're looking to do residential, you want to secure property or look at property that are already zoned for residential. That way you'd have to get any special permit or any special approval to proceed on the plans that you have, right? Except, of course, you got to get your plans approved. But for the most part, I like to tell people, make sure you at least start with something that is already zoned for its specific use. That way it gives you a leg up, meaning that you don't have to get special permission, and that doesn't drag the permit process out. The other thing I like to tell people that you want to also find out what is happening in terms of flood elevations. Wetland is a concern from, especially in my neighborhood, Florida. But you also want to make sure you work with FEMA and, all those entities who covers flooding. And that way you make sure that you check the property out to make sure that's not in a flood zone. If it's in a flood zone, there's other ways to mitigate it, but at least you want to know what you're up against, because it's all about your budget as well. So between the county giving you information as far as what is doable on the property, between you doing your homework in terms of making sure that the property is already zoned for residential usage, having an architect in your back pocket or an engineer and a surveyor helps a lot, because they can literally give you the lay of the land and tell you what to look out for. And even before you put an offer in, I always recommend have your surveyor look at it, have your architect, if they are on board already, look at it. They'll do it for free, because ultimately they're going to get the job anyway. So they have no problem working with you as a newbie, so to speak, wanting to get involved in real estate or land development. They'll definitely work with you, because a client, knocking on the door and introducing yourself means that you're potentially a client, right? So they're not going to turn you back and say, hey, I can't help you. This, they're willing to give you information. And that's what I've found, between the surveyor, the architects, the engineers, the building department, they're very friendly. And, you can get a running start by just having the right people in your corner.
Wow, what a list of golden nuggets and information you just shared. I really appreciate that. So this particular property, was this somewhere you'd already done a few properties or done another property prior to this? Is this the
Correct.
same area?
Yeah, correct. I've done in the same city on the other side of town, and I just completed one early this year that was walking distance from this one. So it was funny. I was telling the builder, I should develop this other property, and you could literally just drive your truck over there and do the work and work at both properties at the same time. And he's like, okay, so we actually did a walk around, we toured the property, because that's one other thing I recommend, always walk with your builder. So he could give you some insights, nuggets in terms of what to do and what not to do. And so in this property, let me just pull it up just to make the conversation better here, if you don't mind.
That's awesome. That's excellent. So this particular property, you acquired the land, you did your homework, you acquired the property, and you went ahead and now is this property, oh, that's great. I was going to say, let's move into your slides, because you got some really neat slides here for people.
So this property here is in Ocala, Florida. It's a neighborhood where as I said before, I was building a home, a 3-minute walk away from this site. So I was already in the neighborhood building. This one, it has a funny shape. I picked it up on a tax deed sale. A little funny shape, but because you have people working in your corner, which I said, the surveyor. So when I decided to pull the plug on this one to move forward, I reached out to the surveyor and had him do a site plan for me. And a site plan means that he puts the type of house that I want to put on it. He puts it in a location and orientation where it can be approved, right? Meaning that all the setbacks are met, all the requirements in terms of yard regulations are met. And so I had him do that before I even decided to 100% go with the project. And once I saw that it fit on the property and it was going to be approved in terms of getting the site plan approved, did the other few steps, getting the financing in place and et cetera, and then getting the actual plans approved. So for this one, when I walked the site with the builder, as you can see here, I don't know if you can see my mouse, but there was not much houses there. So the house at the corner, been there for a couple of years since I've been moving in this community. I know the vacant lot next door to mine, that was also owned by the guy who owns the corner, because I was trying to buy it at one point. And then of course we walked the site with the builder. We made a decision that I'll get into much detail later, but we made a decision that, the garage should be on the left side, meaning that standing in front of the house, the garage should be on the left. because we figure the nearest house to us would have been the guy at the corner, even though there's another house on the other side, right? And so, we made that decision. We reach out to the architect and say, hey, give us, because the plans that we're doing, we can flip and flop in terms of left side and right side, because these plans that we work with are interchangeable. So in this case, we decided to go with the left side garage on the left hand. And so we felt confident that, this is the way to go. We put our paperwork in, we got the approval. And so, it worked out where when we reach out to the utility company, which is another golden nuggets, you want to get them involved as early as possible, because they're watching their bottom lines in terms of how cheap can they bring power to the site, right? And versus the expensive way. And so we thought that the cheapest way to get power was from the left. But after we spoken to them, they told us that the power was cheaper for them, not for us, for them to come from the right side. I was like, oh no. But it was good, because we realized now that because we engaged the process so early, they told us that if you want it from the left, you have to pay more. If you want us to have it done at a cheaper price, you got to take the power from the right side. I was like, you know what? We have a budget in place. We're not going to blow our budget. So we say, go ahead. If that's what it's got to do, you do what you got to do as the utility company. We'll make the adjustment as we go along. And so we made the adjustment. It cost us an extra maybe $500 to extend our internal power line to the other side, which was fine. You see the pictures later. But at the end of the day, getting everybody involved early in the process is a win-win. The electrical company, the water company, the sewer company, getting everybody involved early in the process helps a lot. And so for this site, this is what we call an infill site, meaning that there's existing homes being built as we speak. And the good thing about this lot in front of it is pretty much a preservation lot in front of us, so there won't be any homes in front of us. So we don't have to worry about that. And the guy on the left of us, he owns that lot and he's securing that lot. So, and there's only one more lot available on our right. So we're in good company in terms of neighbors, and we know that the homes here are pretty much under 10 years old, and so we're in good company. So we felt confident that we could execute this plan, and of course have an opportunity to either buy and build and sell, or build and hold, which we decided later to build and hold based on what the market is doing.
Absolutely. So I may have missed it. I didn't hear it, but so there was there a house on this lot before you did this property ever?
No, never.
Oh, okay. So you had to deal with water, sanitation, power. You had to deal with all the utilities.
All the utility. Good thing about this neighborhood is that everything is on well, at least on this block, everything is on well and septic. And so that saved us some money. And of course, that was easy because we have our guys who does that for us on our other projects.
Okay, great. Yeah, it's really important to look at that before you start a project to get your budget, because like locally here, Anthony, for us just to hook up water, if there's not been a water line there before, a house before, and it wasn't tapped correctly, if there was one and demoed, it's a $5,000 tap fee just for water. There's a $5,000 tap fee for sanitation. Mm-hmm. And you've got to think about all those things and run those numbers. And in your case, you got a well and a septic system, correct?
Yeah, brand new well and septic system. Yeah.
Awesome. Very good. Very good. So you want to go ahead and go through some of your slides, or do you have a video you want to show us?
Yeah, I'm going to run through some slides. Just another image of the site in terms of context. All these lots are what we call, they were plotted in this, pretty much on this side of town, plotted for residential. So all these lots are for residential use. As you zoom outside, then you get the commercial, industrial on the outskirts. But on the internal lots here, all these are residential use. So I'm going to stop sharing here and pull up my video real quick, just to give a quick flavor of what's going on. Let me share screen again.
And while he's pulling this up, guys, if you'd like, you can type in the chat room if you have any questions, and we'll get to as many as we can. But you can do a Q&A there if you'd like. And same thing on this, if you're on a smart device, you can pinch this out and open it up and fill your screen up on your smartphone or smart device.
So we're going to walk through just, this was a regular walk through one of my days when I was on site. Pretty much this is the home, I would say 85% completed or so. There's a lot more work to be done. You can see there is no home's going to be built in front of us, which is a good thing, because I think it's a sanctuary in front of us. A couple of guys on our left there that are, that are good neighbors. We've met them before, so we're keeping good company. A lot more work to be done. Landscape needs to be done. Interior work needs to be done. But here we can see this house is a one-car garage. So we're walking through the garage here. Pretty much, the garage to the left there's a side door to get outside in the backyard. And of course, to the right, we're going to have another side door to get us into the kitchen. Right. And also as we go in the kitchen, pretty much we have a laundry area set up for owners. We have, kitchen right there. That's a little a closet, pantry closet, kitchen. And of course, we have one of the bedrooms that we have, which is most likely the master bedroom, right? And so this was a couple of weeks ago. So we have, we've been made a lot of progress since then. And, there's a look in the backyard where you see some yard work being done for the well, to running that water line to the house. And of course, all that backyard will be landscaped off at the end of the project. And now we're back into the kitchen for a minute. Looking through the sliding door, which is we always provide a sliding door and a back patio or a slab for people to entertain themselves. And of course, the 2-bedroom on the other side. I don't think this video covers the bedroom, but the 2 bedrooms on the side, which we call the Jack and Jill bedrooms, right? So 1 bedroom, bathroom in the middle, and then another bedroom, right? But I'll show you some pictures which do better justice on the house here.
And while Anthony's pulling this up, if you're on today as a guest and you'd like to learn more about our community and about the mentorship and education that Anthony's been talking about, and I'm sure I'll talk even more about it as we finish up today's property tour, right after today's Zoom tour, you can actually jump on another Zoom. We call it an overview. It's an overview of our community. It gets into a lot more depth than what we can cover during these property tours. And it starts at 5 after the top of the hour. Just get back to whoever invited you. They can get you set up, get you a link sent to you so you can actually jump on that. And that starts at 5 after the top of the hour. Go ahead, Anthony.
Awesome. Great. Thanks, Scott. All right. So pretty much just some photos here of what we call site work, meaning that once we got on site, once we got our permit in place, we had the lot cleared. So, this lot was wooded, not a lot of trees compared to what I've done before. But this, we still had to do the clearing, and I have a new person who I'm doing all my land clearing now, which does a beautiful job. They take all the trees down, they level off the site for me, and I love that. So I have a new person who just did on these last 2 homes that we did. And so as you can see, these pictures are pretty much a lot being cleared. You see the formwork being put in place to start pouring the foundation slab. And of course, once that is done, you got to get that approved before you actually pour the concrete, right? And so one of the points I like to make, and one of the golden nuggets I want to share, is that the building department is your friend. Every step of the way even if you're not experienced in building homes or doing real estate deals, the building department is your friend, because every time the contractor does any form of work, he has to stop, get it approved before he could proceed to the next phase. And so in this case, this had to be approved before the concrete can get poured. Right. And so it's, you don't need to be the expert in concrete, right? You just need to make sure that the permit is in place, and the building department will take care of the rest as far as helping you to make sure that everything is done by code, right? So you could see once we passed that formwork setup and that was in place, the foundation was poured. Before the foundation was poured, obviously we had to put in, the steel, all the rough piping in terms of for drainage and sanitary piping, etc., and for even water piping as well. And so you can see that was laid in place. The concrete came and poured, and you can see the slab was now set in place, right? That's also get inspected again, right? So you have entity who is looking out for your behalf to make sure that your house is progressing, knowing that at the end of the project you can get a CFO, right? You can see the bottom picture on the right. That's the driveway. That's where the driveway is going to be, and that's where the 1-car garage is. Just to give a little context, right? As things goes by, we keep progressing. So once the slab is cured, we start putting up our block walls, and those go up quickly. That could be literally one day in most cases, right? So that goes up, we stop again and we ask for an inspection, right? And of course, incidentally, other work can be done. Like for instance, the well company was engaged and they start doing their prep work for drilling the well. And so it's, it's a team effort, right? And so you can see the walls are up. We got an inspection, we passed. And once we passed, we were able to go full speed ahead down by framing out the wall, the roof. After the roof was framed out, we were able to, put on the shingles, working with the utility company to start getting temporary power on site so we could, have that power for hand tools and for working a little bit faster. And of course, there's nothing stopping us from progressing ahead. And so we went ahead and we did the stucco work. We start putting in partitions, and along the way, of course, there's time when we stop and get inspections, right? But for the most part, these inspections happen in a sequential order, right? And so, you can't do one before the other, right? And so while that is going on the inside, we had the septic guy came in and did the well work, right? The septic work. And so it's an ongoing progress, right? Where all the trades are coming in at the different time. And for me, I only hire the contractor because I don't want to get caught up in hiring trades and then having them late or make mistakes, and then I'm held responsible. So I hire the contractor, which is the GC. All his subs comes under him and he's responsible for them, right? I have no engagement with them. Of course, if I'm on site, I'm going to, we're going to chat and talk, but for the most part, they're hired by the contractor and my obligation is to the contractor and his obligation is to me, right? Clean and simple. Once we finish on the outside, we get inside, we order a material. We like to go with the laminated wood, in Florida here because, because of the soil in Florida, sometimes you get a crack in the floor. And so we avoid that, by doing laminated floors. Of course, you can see once we're inside, it's full speed ahead. The electrical guy coming in doing his rough electrical work. We could start laying down, sheetrock for walls to put in place. Rough plumbing is already in place. The tubs are set in place, ready for inspection again. And so there's so much work goes on that we are coordinating. And the fact that I'm working with one person, which is the GC, his subs know each other because they're on the same project, week in, week out. So they coordinate among themselves, right? And so I'm not caught in coordination effort. I'm not caught into the budget aspect of things and the scheduling of these trades to get on site because, I have my obligations and the contractor has his, right? And so we try to separate those roles and responsibility, which makes it cleaner for me as an investor to be able to not manage 5 or 6 different trades and trying to order material. And, I do that on other projects, smaller projects, but on new construction, I tend to just have one person be responsible and drive the schedule. And I push that person to drive my schedule. Again, this is the actual home. This was my last visit there about 2.5 weeks ago. In this model, we had went with, of course, we always do, tiles in the bathroom and laminated on the floors, and of course granite countertops, granite window sills, etc. And in most times we like to do this because these are like upgrade for us, meaning that anybody that we're selling these homes to, or we know that they would have to worry about getting upgrades in terms of, they want to switch out from quartz to granite or to whatever, right? So we try to just make sure we upgrade one notch up where everything is already, get a blessing from the person who's going to buy the house because that's what they would have done anyway. Granite countertops, granite, tiles in the floor, et cetera, right? So for the most part, we did with this model, we did the white cabinets with the brownish grayish granite countertops. And of course, the floor and the granite countertop matches. And we did the white because now we're looking to probably do either, stainless steel appliances or, maybe, we don't know yet, but at this time I'm going to buy that this week coming up. So I'll go to the store, I'll see what mesh is real good. But for the most part, this is the actual home, right? So I want to show you because we've been doing this model several times, I just wanted to give you a taste of what this actual model looks like. Of course, we always had ceiling fans in all the rooms. Everything is automated for the most part. This is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home with a 1-car garage, right? And we like these homes because they go very fast when we complete them. And for the most part, this is a home, right? We have our driveway been poured since then. We had a walkway put in place. We have the garage door installed. We since then, this is a couple of weeks old. We did completed putting in the well. and the line was, run to the house, covered up, because again, we're what, a week away from finishing this house. And so this is our typical model. And this is one of the model that we've done several times already. We have done this model twice in this neighborhood already, and once in another neighborhood, but in the same city, so to speak. And so we like to have the option to do any kind of exit strategy that we like. And this one, we choose to do build, rent, and refinance, meaning that we're going to build and rent it out. If we need to refinance when the terms get better in terms of interest rate, we'll do that later. But for now, we can just hold on to this as an asset, and we can cash flow this property, right? And of course, the rent is going up because of people not able to qualify for mortgage anymore. So we take that opportunity now to demand a little bit higher rent, knowing that most people were already going to be buying a house, so they do have capital available to rent, and especially if we even do an option of lease option, which that's something that we could consider later. But for the most part, this is our typical model. On the inside, as we said, we've done this several times. So sometimes we do a combination of different grays on the countertops, sometimes different colors on the cabinets. In this case, we have done, most of our cabinets are same from the same company, gray, white, dark brown, and of course, all these are soft touch. Means that there's no slamming of these cabinets door. Everything's little much self-close, and it's very soft. Right. The flooring, again, we always go. We do variation in terms of the colors, and of course, most of the time we do one color for the entire interior, meaning it's pretty much a white on white, and then we play off the appliances and the countertops. We tend not to get into the colors of different rooms because that's too much customization. We try to make sure our homes are acceptable at the get-go without being need to be customized beyond what we already provided in terms of upgrades. Again, pretty much, because we've done this before, different variations of what we've done. And of course, in a week from now, this home that we just showcased will be done in a week, and we'll be able to get it occupied, right? Again, our finishes varies from tile in the bathrooms all the way up to the ceiling, and laminated floors. Of course, we do fans and in all the rooms, and of course, this it does have AC, central air, so all that is just ready to go. So most of our homes, or what we say, are move-in ready homes. You come in, all you need to do is bring your furniture, and we give you the key. And it's a good feeling when we hand over keys to a brand new home to somebody for the first time, and that's one of our joy, and that's why we keep doing these week in, week out, month in, month out.
That's so awesome. Now, has there been anything specific from our trainings and our education that we have access to that has really helped you with this type of a project or any of your business?
Oh, definitely. I mean, the plethora goes on where, it started with me seeing a course called land development. And that one blew my mind. I think I took a whole weekend just to wrap that course around and took so much notes. And that was the one that kind of propelled me that it can be done with the support of my community here that we have. So that was one of the courses that helped me a lot. All the other fundamental courses helped me a lot in terms of tax and legal, making sure that I have the right entities in place. Course in terms of negotiation, how to negotiate with even the builder, right? I negotiate with the builder where the price I'm getting is not the price that the other person is getting, because we're constantly doing more projects together. And so I'm using all these skill set that I get from the community and from the courses to negotiate. And of course, making sure that I understand mortgages, because, I use hard money for some of these constructions. And I have to make sure I understand the difference between private and hard money, and, how to solicit those funds. And those courses are just tremendous as far as me moving forward.
I'm so glad that you did go through a lot of those, because, what's so cool about all of our trainings and classes that we have, if like specifically this strategy is land development, building a house from the ground up, you're renting it afterwards, and then you refinance it out. Well, it's just not land development. The fix and flip helps. The rehab classes help. The negotiation class, you mentioned, that helps. The creative acquisitions helps. The hard money and direct and private money classes help. I could probably think of a dozen classes that help specifically for what you're doing, and I'm probably missing another dozen.
Exactly.
Does that make sense?
Exactly. And I haven't even touched on credits and mortgages and title and closing and escrow, and those courses that helps us to get to the closing table. So, so there's so much, so much material for us to use. And for me, I find myself merging several different strategies together to make them work and even get better returns because the knowledge is there and the support is there. I'm able to do that, right? I'm not just a one-trick pony where I'm doing a fix and flip and it has to be a fix and flip or else I'm going to lose my shirt, right? No, with community, you get advice, you have a mentor, you're able to pivot in the middle of everything else. And this is what I did in this project. This was a build and sell and move to the next one, right? But, seeing what's happening with the feds and the market, and the community, getting feedback from the community helps to say, you know what, I could pivot and still be okay.
You referred earlier that this floor plan can flip from one side to the other. You can have the garage on the left, you can have the garage on the right, and you've used this floor plan before. What is, it's a 3-bed, 2-bath, 2 full baths. Correct. What is the square footage on this property?
The square footage is about 1,700 square feet.
1,700?
Yeah.
Well, that's a pretty good size 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and I'm sure it appeals. Like, the other thing that I look at, and I know you do as well, the end buyer that moves into this area where you're at, right? Who's going to be looking at this specific. That doesn't mean every once in a while, you might have something outside the normal, but what is the market for this type of property in this area? Right, who buys this?
So these properties are buy by people who are moving into the neighborhood for the first time and they want to start a home, or there could be a elderly family who is downgrading to a smaller home. They no longer want a 3,000 square foot home. They want a smaller home. They just need to have an extra bedroom or office space. And this is ideal for them, right? Young families as well, because we try to do these homes for under $290, right? And so that's affordable for most people getting their first home. And so we kind of have the target market where we approach people where, we could market to anybody because it's not a high-end home. It's not a low budget home either. So it's right in the sweet spot. Anywhere we sell this home for normally anywhere from $250 all the way to $290. So we have that range based on, what we do and based on the land size. If the land is a little bit bigger, we charge a little bit more.
Yeah, that is such a hot price point, under 300,000. Oh my gosh, that is an extremely hot price point. And I know we're going to get to the numbers here in just a second. Talk a little bit about you were talking about your exit strategy. Your plan is to go ahead and rent this out, and you're going to talk. What is a house like this rent for in that area?
Right, good. So we have somebody lined up for this one. It's going to be rented for September 1st once we finish this week, right? So I'm keeping my fingers crossed, no delays here, no rain or anything like that. But for the most part, this could rent as high as 21, 22. And the new home, that alone affords us to demand that higher price, right? Because, nobody lived in the home before. You're getting the brand new keys to a new home. So we can demand a price. I tend to rent a little bit below the rate because I want to make sure the person can afford the rent, and I'm not moving out or stop paying rent after 3-4 months. So this one's going to be rented for $1,850, right? And the reason for that is, the person who we have lined up, they're looking to buy shortly. So we're either going to sell them this home or help them find another home. So for the most part, that's a good win for us because we don't want to keep it empty too long. So that's why we're moving in that direction. But the price range could vary from 18 22.
Okay, great. Wonderful. Do you want to go ahead and jump into the numbers now so everybody can see kind of what? That's awesome.
Definitely. All right. So the numbers for us here is, this land picked up for dirt cheap price for us, right? Somebody got that over here coming in. But, all right. So we got this land because it was a part of the auction that we do, the tax deeds auction, and so we got it dirt cheap. The same land, if I was to buy it now, I have to pay 15 to 18 for it, right? And so you can see that we already got a jump start on the land acquisition portion of it, right? Because because the market is hot, that's the selling price for land that I'm buying now, 15 to 18, this size lot in this side of town. Of course, we use hard money, which is what we call for the construction loan. And we tend to run this out about 24 months to give us a little bit of wiggle room in terms of having a hard date to close in terms of, paying off this debt. And then we had a 160 loan for for the home because that's what it costs to build for us. We had debt service, of course, over the last 10 months, about $16,000. Ongoing debt service that we had, to repay that hard money loan. We had some soft costs, and soft costs we meant, we had some land clearing involved, we had the architect fees involved, we had some minor permitting fees involved, and just to get us started. And so that runs us about 6,500. And of course, we're all in this project for about 188, right? Right now, if I wanted to switch and sell this property, that would be my listing price. Probably would list a little bit higher, maybe 275, 279, somewhere around there. But that wouldn't take less than 269 for this home. And that's like going pretty fast, right? But for the most part, because we're not selling right now, we're going to watch the market and kind of get it rented out. We haven't officially listed, but my behind the scene marketing that I do based on the community and what I've learned in the community about marketing, real estate deals. So we market this property. We have the tenant lines up. They're moving from another city to this city. So that's a good thing. And of course, we give them even a discount on it because we're still going to, cash flow. So we're going to somewhere about 250 to 300, we're going to be making a cash flow, right? And for us, that's a win because at the end of the day, we still own the property. It's still going to appreciate. And so we're comfortable with what we're getting. And this is just one of many properties.
Awesome. So what was your thought process? Here's a question from Jason here. What was your thought process as far as keeping it as a rental as opposed to a fix and flip?
It was definitely based on the market. We always watching the market because one of the courses that we take in our community is about not only marketing but understanding the market, right? And so the fact that we were able to look at the market, assess what's going on, and the likelihood, like for instance, a year ago, these same homes, I list them and I'm getting 15, 20 offers, right? If I list it, I probably get 1 or 2 offers. So we know that the market was slowing down, not because the demand is not there, but because of the mortgage condition issues, right? And so people who were qualifying before were falling through the cracks because something in their, credit pushed them over the debt to income limit, right? And so we realized, why force people to try to get a home if they can't afford it? Let's rent it out. When the market turns, we'll, revisit that market and see what we can get. And most of the time, I'm confident that, we can get more later if we rent it for now, because the same home that I built 2 years ago was being sold for 169, right? So we know the market's not going to go up forever, but we're confident that, based on all the other developments going on in the neighborhood and that we are at the best price point, we can get this sold for under 300, 6 months or a year from now.
Awesome. So your number here reflects, and again, this is just Anthony's numbers. You can't, every deal is different. Every market is different. Your rent numbers here, like looking at a property like this in our market, it would rent for about the same price. It would rent for between $1,900 and $2,100. And that'd be about right on. And but a market like we were talking before the Zoom today, about how hot the Washington D.C. market still is, and this property might rent for $3,500 in D.C. And but then your cost to build it would most likely be much higher as well.
Exactly.
You betcha. So everything's relative.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
Right.
And you can transpose what you're doing in other cities, but the numbers has to be adjusted, right?
Absolutely. So looking at this cash flow before cash refi, what you're saying is based on the current debt service, if you rent this September 1st, which sounds like you already have someone ready to go.
Yes, definitely.
Your cash flow is going to be $300 a month before you refi it out.
Before, right. And it's going to be higher when I refinance it out because the rates I'm getting out, this is a hard money loan, so the terms tends to be a little bit higher. When I refinance it out to a conventional mortgage, the terms will go down. And the good thing about the refinance is no money coming out of my pocket, right? Because it's a cash out refinance. I'm able to bring the mortgage payment down, which is my debt service, and at the same time increase my cash flow. So it's a win all over again, right?
It is. So just to summarize that for everybody on, as you guys can see, there's equity in this property when Anthony's done here next week. So he's got built-in equity, and when he goes to refi this out and recognize that equity, he's going to have some kind of cash out on this. Okay. And because the rates, even though the rates are very high right now, they're still much lower than, say, a hard money lender, correct?
Correct.
So you're going to recognize even more cash flow on this thing.
Exactly. And that's the whole part about our community here. We're exposed to so much different avenues of investing that we're always going to be winners in our community, right? Because we're watching the market, we have the mentor working alongside us, we have the support system in place, we have the educational aspect of learning different strategies. So we're always going to be ahead of the average investor, right? Who just knows the one-trick pony, right? So we're positioned to succeed.
Absolutely. So as we kind of wrap this up, we did get, let's see here. We got all the questions answered. That's awesome. What would you like, or how would you like to kind of wrap things up today, as far as maybe, leaving folks on today who maybe have never done a deal, maybe are thinking about doing the land development and building a home from the ground up, and maybe they haven't even got a part of our community yet. How would you like to wrap things up and kind of leave everybody with some words of wisdom or some advice, if you would?
Yeah, sure. Appreciate that. So definitely, I mean, the fact that you're here today mean that somebody took the interest to kind of introduce you to what we're doing, right? As investors. So you definitely want to make that person your friend. You want to have that person in your corner. So I'd strongly recommend that you get back to that person and we invited you to say, hey, I like what I heard. I like about the community. I want to be involved, right? Because that's your gateway in, right? You can't sit on the fence forever, right? And so for us, definitely get back to the person who invited you. But on top of that, I want to share that, start thinking about your team. Who you want to have on your team? Who are some of the real estate agent you want to be working with? Who are some of the attorneys that you want to work with? What are some of the accountants, you want to work with? And start thinking about building a team, right? You don't have to have the money in place. You don't have to have the company in place, but at least start putting a list of people who you want to do business with, right? Whether they're in this community or not, attorneys, lawyers, real estate people, anybody who thinks going to support your business, because you need that support, right? And without the support, many of us here as investors couldn't have done what we're doing, because support is critical for success, right? You can't be a lone wolf. And so the community is important to us. And we stress that definitely there's some knowledge that's going to be required, right? You can't go to YouTube University to get everything that you need, because at the end, if you get into a jam, you can't call anybody in YouTube and say, hey, Mr. YouTuber, can you help me get out of this jam? I'm about to lose my shirt, right? With our community, we have people who will show you how to pivot to make sure that you don't lose your shirt. So, you want to make sure that you know who's on your side, who's behind you. And a community like this is definitely good. The knowledge base is tremendous. So you want to get plugged in. I didn't learn all of this from college. I learned this from being in the community and taking courses and just diving in headway, right? Because at the end of the day, it's all about learning and executing.
Yeah, we've had a couple. That is such incredible advice and recommendations as we wrap up. We had a couple late questions come in. One's about clarifying hard money and how do you go about obtaining it. There's Cassandra. There's so many. There's probably over 1,000 hard money lenders out there. You've got to do your due diligence, start building relationships, start talking to different ones, seeing what their different terms are and their requirements and things like that. So they do vary from hard money lender to hard money lender. They're very similar, but they do have some nuances. So you really got to do your due diligence there. And then as far as determining how much this should cost, I think what you're referring to, Henry, there is how much does this property cost to build? Anthony shared his numbers there, and this is not his first project. He's built other properties, so he has a good idea of what cost should be. And again, we have some incredible classes on fix and flip, rehab, land development, all of those that kind of guide you through the questions and what to look at and how to analyze things. So jump on those. Anthony, how did you establish the ARV for your area?
Right. So, in Florida, I'm a licensed realtor, so I do have access to a lot of data, and as a realtor, I'm watching the market, and so for the most part, I did my CMA, which is the comps, so to speak, and kind of establish what the other builders are doing, what the last sales were doing in terms of completed, sold properties, and of course, we base that on compare. Of course, you always got to compare apples and apples, so we compare the same size property. We could also even compare new construction to new construction. And so our price and ARV came from the comps in the neighborhood, right? What we were selling for. I sold the same house, 3 minutes away from this one for 272. So we know the comps because we're active in the market and in the neighborhood. And of course, we have, as a realtor myself, I'm able to get all the data that I need from all the comps that have been sold over the last few years, the last few months, as a matter of fact.
Absolutely. That's great. Well, we're going to go ahead and wrap up, Anthony. You've done an incredible job today. We'll be back next Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern. And we've actually got a fix and hold that's a short-term rental that we'll be sharing with you out of Salt Lake City next Saturday. Anthony, we appreciate it. It's always a privilege to have you on. And for everybody else, have a great weekend as well. And look forward to seeing you next Saturday. Take care, Anthony.
Yeah. Thanks, Scott. Appreciate it. Thanks, Yaz. Thanks, everyone.